Today, we're going to be looking at a classic horror story called The Telltale Heart. This month is Spooktober. So it's October, it's a little bit spooky October. Put it together, we call it Spooktober. And people like to read scary stories, watch scary movies leading up to Halloween. And so I decided that we could try reading The Telltale Heart. This is a story by an author named Edgar Allen Poe. And he's a really famous author who was around a long time ago, but these stories have been passed around and shared, and people have read them, and they're super famous, especially here in the United States. And so we can try a scary story. It's not super scary, but we can use this to practice our English. We can practice reading. We can learn some new vocabulary and maybe have some fun getting ready for Halloween. So let's get my marker ready. And yeah, let's get started. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, published 1843. So this is a very old story, but it's very famous and you should probably read it at some point. Okay, let's get started. What I'll do is I will read first, and then we can go back and look at it sentence by sentence and talk about some of the vocabulary words and maybe write some down and make some example sentences to help us. So let's get started. The Telltale Heart. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. So, this story starts with the narrator. The narrator means the person telling the story. Let's make sure you can see the words. Yeah, the person telling the story is the narrator. In this story, the narrator is the main character, and so he's telling the story of what happened. And so he says, true, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? So nervous means you're worried about something. Very, very dreadfully nervous. Dreadfully is another way to say very, but in a bad way. So very, very, very nervous, or very, very dreadfully nervous. So it's like very, but in a bad way. Like there are many words that mean very, and they give different feelings. Like if you say, that movie was amazingly good. Amazingly just means very, very good, but it's very in a very good way. Oh my gosh, I sound crazy, but you know what I mean. That person's amazingly nice. They're not just very nice. Amazingly is like a really good, strong version of very. The opposite is true. Dreadfully is a very strong, negative, bad version of very. He was dreadfully nervous. Okay? So very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. That means I had been, meaning before, and am. So right now, am is to be, but right now. So he was nervous before, he's nervous now. But why will you say that I am mad? In American English, mad usually means mad usually means angry in American English. But here, this means crazy. So mad can mean crazy. That's very common in British English, but not really in American English, or not anymore. So why will you say that I'm mad? So why would you call me crazy? So don't call me crazy. I'm not mad. The disease had sharpened my senses. So that means the narrator, the main character, has some kind of disease, but we don't know what's wrong with him. And he says, the disease had sharpened my senses. Okay. Sharpened means to make something sharp. Like you can think of a knife can be sharp. You sharpen a knife. And that could mean to make it better, right? So sharpened my senses. Your senses means you hear, you see, you smell, you taste, you touch. Those are your 5 senses. So if something sharpened your senses, that made your senses stronger, made your senses better. So he's saying the disease had sharpened my senses. So whatever's wrong with him is making him actually better at seeing, better at hearing. Okay? The disease had sharpened my senses. I can hear better now. Not destroyed, so not destroyed my senses, not dulled them. To dull something means to make it weaker. So he's saying that he got sick, a disease. It made his senses better. They're sharpened. You would think a disease would destroy someone's senses or dull someone's senses, meaning make their senses weaker. But he's saying, no, made my senses better. My hearing's better. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. So his senses are better, and above all, meaning the most, above all was the sense of hearing acute. Acute means very sharp, very strong. So if you have acute hearing, that means you can hear really, really well. So very good hearing. And so this guy who says he is not crazy, he's not mad, he says, I heard all things in heaven and in the earth. So he says he can hear everything in heaven and everything on earth. Okay. And you say you're not crazy? I heard many things in hell. So down below, he can hear things from hell. Okay. How then am I mad? So he's saying, why do you think I'm mad? In what way am I mad? Of course not. I can hear things really well. And then hearken. So this is a very old word. People don't use this anymore. But hearken would mean like listen or pay attention. Okay? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. So he's going to tell us the whole story of what happened. And he's going to tell us healthily. So he's very healthy. His brain is okay. He's not crazy. Don't worry. And he's going to tell us very calmly. So he's going to stay calm, peaceful, and relaxed and tell us the story. So, do you think this guy is normal? Maybe he's a little bit crazy. So, we started this story. The beginning, he's saying, oh, he's very nervous. But don't worry, I'm not mad. I'm not crazy. I can hear really clearly. I have good ears. I can hear everything in heaven, on earth, and in hell. Haha, I'm fine. I'm not crazy. And now he's going to tell us this story. So, next part. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. And so, by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so let's go back and try piece by piece. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. So, it's impossible to say. You might know the phrase, it's hard to say, or I don't know how to say. This means that maybe there's no reason. Maybe there's no reason, or I don't know why. So, impossible to say or hard to say means I don't know why. Oh, it's hard to say, blah, blah, blah. It's impossible to say, blah, blah, blah. So, it's impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain. If an idea enters your brain, what does that mean? Well, that means you thought of something. So, he doesn't know why he thought of the idea. But once conceived, it haunted me day and night. So, he thought of an idea, and then once conceived, it haunted me. What do you think conceived means? Well, he thought of an idea, then the idea was conceived. So conceived is thought of. Like if we use this word for you think of something new, like a new idea. So I conceived an idea, or I conceived a plan, or someone might conceive a design, okay? It's to make or think of something new. So once conceived, like when I thought of the idea, it haunted me day and night. To haunt. Haunt is a tricky word. Haunt is what a ghost does. A ghost might follow you. And if that ghost follows you, it is haunting you. So the ghost is haunting you as it follows you at night. Creepy. Now, why is he using the word haunt here? The idea entered my brain. It haunted me day and night. So the idea haunted him. What does that mean? Well, that means the idea is stuck in his head and it's bothering him all the time. Like the idea is following him. And so it's following in a bad way or bothering him. Like he can't forget this idea. It's haunting him. Okay? So the idea haunted him day and night. Oh, I have this idea. Object, there was none. An object is a goal, like a mission. So he doesn't have a goal. He's not trying to do something. So object, there was none. Passion, there was none. Meaning he didn't have any strong feelings. Passion means strong feelings. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. So there's an old man. So the main character and there's an old man, and he really likes the old man. So I love the old man. He had never wronged me. So he had never done anything bad to the main character. He had never wronged him. You might know the word wrong. Oh, that's right or that's wrong. Wrong can be a verb, meaning do something bad to someone. So he had never wronged me. He had never done something bad to me. Okay? Like if someone steals from you, you could say, oh, they wronged me. They stole my money. Okay? Let's see. So he had never wronged me. So there's nothing wrong with this old man. He had never given me insult. Insult means saying bad words, so he never said anything mean to him. For his gold, I had no desire. Desire means wanting something. For his gold, I had no desire, meaning I didn't want his gold. Okay? So there's no, all these things. Object, there was none. So I had no goal doing it. Passion, there was none. I had no strong feelings. I loved the old man. I really liked him. He had never wronged me. He never hurt me. He had never given me insult. He never said anything bad to me. For his gold, I had no desire. I didn't want his money. So the main character has an idea, but there's no real reason for it. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. So the main character says there's a problem with the old man's eye. Okay? And he's saying he's not mad, he's not crazy. Okay? One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. What is a vulture? A vulture is a kind of bird. Caca! This kind of creepy bird. This is called a vulture. And so one of his eyes resembled or looked like that of a vulture. Resembled means looked like. So the old man had an eye, and one of his eyes looked like the eye of a vulture. A pale blue eye with a film over it. So his eye is blue, but pale blue. Pale means that it's not very colorful. Maybe it's close to a white color. A pale blue eye with a film over it. Maybe it looks like something is covering his eye. Maybe the old man is sick and his eye has a problem. So the main character thinks this eye is creepy. So one of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, so when someone's eye falls upon you, that means they look at you. My blood ran cold. So when the old man looked at him, his blood went cold. Blah, creepy. Maybe it's a creepy looking eye. That's okay. I mean, I understand that. And so by degrees, meaning by piece, very gradually, a little bit at a time. That's what gradually means. Bit by bit by bit, a little more, a little more, a little more. So slowly he had this idea. I made up my mind to take the life of the old man. I made up my mind means I decided. So he decided something. To take the life of the old man. To take someone's life, what do you think that means? Well, to kill them. Dun, dun, dun. I made up my mind to take the life of the old man. I decided to kill the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Thus meaning in that way, or so. And so, rid myself of the I. Rid myself means like get rid of. Get it away from me. Get rid of is basically what rid myself is. Or make it go away is an easier way to say it. To rid yourself of something. So let's say you have old shoes and they're broken and they're falling apart and you want to rid yourself of those old shoes. Just throw them in the garbage. Okay. So this guy said on the first page, "Oh, I'm not crazy, don't worry." But then he said, "Ooh, I had an idea. I have no reason for the idea. I don't want money. I don't have strong feelings. It's just this guy's eye was a little bit scary, so I decided to kill him." Oh my God. Pretty creepy. Spooky. So he's telling us this story about he's going to kill the old man who lives in the same house. Okay. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. Remember, mad means crazy. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door, click, and opened it, oh so gently. And then, when I made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? So he's telling us, "Oh, I'm not crazy, don't worry. I'm just being really creepy." So he says that, oh, he decided to kill the old man because of his creepy eye. He says, now this is the point. The point meaning the main idea. You fancy me mad. Fancy can be a verb. This is not common in American English anymore, but it's pretty common in British English. So fancy could mean think. You think that I am mad. So you fancy me mad means you think I'm crazy. So you fancy me mad. I said, oh, this eye made me want to kill him. So you think I'm crazy. But, oh, no, I'm not crazy. Madmen know nothing. So crazy people know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have watched me, meaning, oh, I did something amazing. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded. Wisely means very smart. And proceeded means moved forward, like step by step. So you should have seen how smart I was when I did everything. So you should have seen how wisely I proceeded. With what caution? Caution is another way to say being careful. So he says, oh, you should have seen how wisely I proceeded, how smart I was, and with what caution, meaning how careful I was. I was very, very careful when I killed the old man. Don't worry, because I was so careful, that means I'm not crazy. With what foresight? Foresight is you look forward with your sight. For is like forward. Sight means seeing. So foresight means seeing ahead. Oh, give me a second. Okay. So foresight is seeing ahead, seeing the future. You see forward into the future. Oops. So he said, oh, you should have seen me with what foresight I had. Like what I could tell what was going to happen next. And also with what dissimulation I went to work. Now this word is really, really rare. So you don't need to remember this one. But this means he's hiding his feelings. Why would he need to hide his feelings? Well, he's thinking about killing the old man, but he's going to hide it from him. Maybe, oh, hello, old man, how are you? And smile and be nice and friendly. But he's hiding his true feelings. Ha ha ha, I'm going to kill you. So, creepy guy, right? So he says, you should have seen me. How wisely I proceeded. I was very smart. With what caution? I was very careful. With what foresight? I was thinking ahead. I knew what would happen next. And with what dissimulation? Meaning I kept my feelings a secret. I didn't let him know I was going to kill him. Then he says, I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. So I was never kinder to him. That means I was very kind. So I was never kinder, meaning I was never more kind than this. So that means I was super, super nice, super kind, more than I ever have. Okay? So there are phrases like this, like never kinder or never nicer, meaning very, very nice, actually. Because if something could never be kinder, that means it's the most, right? So I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. So I was super nice to the old man. Oh, hi, old man. How are you today? Oh, come in. Here's a snack. Here's some chocolate. And so be very nice. And every night, about midnight. Now, when is midnight? Well, midnight doesn't mean the middle of the night. It means 12 o'clock a.m. So remember, 12:00 is midnight. So about midnight, I turned the latch of his door. The latch is the thing that you click. Click, that's called a latch. I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. I opened the door gently and carefully. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head. Sufficient means enough. So he's opening the door slowly and gently, and he opens it enough for his head, to put his head in the door and look in. So that's sufficient for my head. Sufficient is a good word for business. Like, well, yeah, if you are asking your boss, like, how much money should we spend on an advertisement? And you say, boss, can we spend $3,000 on an advertisement? Your boss might say, yeah, that sounds sufficient. That means that sounds like enough, meaning 3,000 is a good number. Or you say, oh, should we spend 3,000 on an advertisement? They say, that's not sufficient, meaning that's not enough. You should spend more. Okay? So back to the story. When I had made an opening sufficient for my head, the hole is big enough for my head, I put in a dark lantern. A lantern is a light, like 灯笼, a lantern. So I put in a lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. So the lantern is actually closed. You can close the sides of a lantern so it's kind of mostly dark. And then I thrust in my head. So put in a lantern and your head, but with only a tiny bit of light. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. So he stuck his head in the doorway, and he did it very cunningly. Cunningly means in a sneaky way, like, or a clever way. Sneaky or clever, very cunning. So he is very smart about how he put his head through the door. How did he move his head? I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. So he put his head in the door slowly so he doesn't wake up the old man. Disturb the old man's sleep. Disturb means to bother someone. So to disturb their sleep would mean bother their sleep or wake him up. So he's moving slowly so he doesn't wake up the old man. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. So this guy's saying, I'm not crazy, don't worry, but I spend 1 hour slowly putting my head through the door. Creepy, right? Oh my God. So, and he's watching the old man sleep. Definitely not crazy, right? Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? So he's saying, oh, if I was crazy, I wouldn't be so wise. Wise means very smart. So, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm too smart to be crazy. Okay. This guy is pretty weird, right? Now, our main character, who is definitely not mad. He's definitely not crazy because he's too smart. I think he's a little bit crazy. What do you think? Okay, next. So he puts his head in the doorway. And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray, a ray of light, fell upon the vulture eye. So a little bit of light goes on that eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, "Oh, hello there," and inquiring how he had passed the night. "Oh, how did you sleep?" So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked upon him while he slept. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Creepy. Ugh. And so what did he do? So he stuck his head in the door with the lantern too. And then when my head was well in the room, using well here means like a good amount. Like my head was in the room a lot of the way, far into the room. When my head was well in the room, because it took him an hour, right? I undid the lantern cautiously. Undid is the past tense of undo. So he closed the lantern. So the lantern is dark. And he undid the lantern, meaning he closed it before, so he took that away. He undid it. So he's opening the lantern cautiously. Again, we said cautious means careful. So cautiously means carefully, right? Very carefully. So he opened the lantern very cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously. So he's doing it so carefully, he's saying it 3 times. Cautiously. For the hinges creaked. A hinge is part of the lantern. A hinge is where 2 pieces touch. Like a door where it touches the wall. That's the hinge, the part that bends. So for the lantern, he's opening the lantern and there's a hinge. And the hinge that goes creaks. Creak is a sound. Creak, 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 creak. So if he opens the lantern, it goes creak. And so he has to open it very cautiously, very carefully, because he doesn't want to make a sound. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. So he opens the lantern just so much, meaning only a little bit, just so much. So just is like only, and so much here is like a bit. Just so much that a single thin ray. Well, a ray is like a beam of light, like a line of light. So a single, meaning one, thin, very skinny, ray. So a single thin ray, a little tiny line of light, fell upon his vulture eye. We saw fell upon before, meaning goes onto. So he opens the lantern a little bit so the light goes on the old man's scary eye. Okay? I hope this is not going to give you nightmares. Okay. And I did this for 7 long nights. So he did this 7 days in a row. Oh, geez. Every night, just at midnight. So at 12 o'clock, he does this every night for a whole week. But I found the eye always closed. So the old man was sleeping with his eye closed. So it was impossible to do the work. Because the old man's eye was closed, the main character cannot do the work. What do you think the work is? Well, in this sentence, the work means the idea, killing the old man. Ooh. So he can't kill the old man because the eye is closed. Okay? Why? For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. To vex someone is like to curse them. Curse means like evil magic, or kind of like they're hurting you. So it's not the old man who hurt him. It was the evil eye. So he doesn't have any problem with the old man. He has a problem with the eye. So he wants the eye to be open. So This is a creepy story, right? It was not the old man who vexed me. So not the old man who bothered me, but his evil eye. So he's waiting for the eye to be open. And every morning when the day broke is at the beginning of the day. You might hear the phrase daybreak. So it's kind of like it was night and then it breaks open and the sun comes out. So that's called daybreak, meaning morning, the start of the day. So daybreak is the start of the day. If you want to use it with a subject and verb, you could say when the day broke. Okay? So every morning when the day broke, at the start of the day, I went boldly into the chamber. So bold is like brave. I went boldly, bravely, into the chamber, his room. Chamber is a room. So he walks in. Hello, old man, how are you this morning? And I spoke courageously to him. Courageously is another way to say brave. You might know courage. Someone has courage. That means they're brave. So to speak courageously means speak bravely. Okay? Calling him by name in a hearty tone. Say, we don't know his name, right? But the author or the narrator used his name. Like, oh, hello, Mr. Smith, in a hearty tone. So tone is the sound. Hearty means warm and friendly. So, oh, good morning. How are you, Mr. Smith? Okay. And inquiring how he had passed the night. Inquiring means asking. Asking how he had passed the night, meaning asking how he slept during the night. Okay. Oh, good morning, Mr. Smith. How did you sleep? And being friendly, very brave, and very bold. Pretending like everything's normal. So, you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed. Profound meaning brilliant, very smart, or amazing. Smart or amazing. So he would have been a very amazing and smart old man if, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked upon him while he slept. So he would have had to be a very smart old man to suspect that the main character is looking at him every night. To suspect means to have a feeling, to think he's doing something bad. Have a bad feeling. Let's say that. Like, something's weird about this guy. But no, he's being friendly and jolly. Oh, hello, old man. How did you sleep? How are you today? And so he wouldn't suspect anything unless he's an amazing genius, right? Okay. And so the main character is going into the room every night with a lantern and opening the lantern so a little bit of light goes on the old man's evil eye. But every night it's closed because he's sleeping. And so the main character is waiting for him to open his eye at night. But then in the morning, he's acting normal, pretending that he's friendly and everything's nice. I think we can stop here with our story for now. We got to the point where he's looking in the door with his lantern and staring at the old man and his evil eye every night at midnight. So this is a little bit tricky, but I think it's interesting and it's fun, and there's a lot of good new vocabulary to learn. So let's go back to the beginning and reread what we've read so far. And maybe now that we talked about some of these words, it will be a little bit easier to understand what's happening in the story. And then next time we can continue the story and see what actually happens. Does he kill the old man? Does the old man run away? What happens? Okay? But let's go back to the beginning and try reading one more time. You can try to follow along, and hopefully now that we talked about the words, it'll be a little bit easier. So let's try. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses. Not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. Ooh. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. Ooh. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Oh, every day. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. Caw, caw. A pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold. Blah. And so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door, click, and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him. calling him by name in a hearty tone. "Oh, hello, Mr. Smith," and inquiring how he had passed the night. "How did you sleep last night?" So, you see, he would have to be a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Ugh, creepy. So, this is the first part of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. I hope you find this interesting. It's a creepy story about a crazy guy, a madman, but he says, "Oh, I'm not crazy at all. I'm totally normal." And he decides to kill an old man because of his evil eye. And so, we'll continue this story next week where we can see what happens and what happens to the old man. What does the madman do next? Does the old man run away? Does the madman catch him? And we'll see what happens next time, okay? So, this is the start of our... Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. This is the start of our Spooktober. We're going to try this creepy story for Halloween and to enjoy some reading practice, but also a classic, famous story that a lot of people in America have read before. And it's spooky and it's really an interesting story. And maybe you don't know the ending, but we'll find out together. So I think we can stop here for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you had fun. I hope it's not too scary. And I hope you learned something new. There's a lot of difficult vocabulary in this story, but not too crazy difficult. And so if you have any questions, you can always leave a comment for me or send me a message and I can try to help you out. Now, one piece of advice I give you is what you could do is try to copy down some of these vocabulary words and see if you can make a sentence with any of them. That's a good way to practice new words, okay? And of course, you could try reading this part of the story again to try again and see if you can understand it better the second time you read it, okay? So let's stop here for today. I hope you had some fun. I hope I didn't scare you too much. I kind of scared myself. But don't worry. Yeah, we'll see what happens next time, okay? So thanks so much for joining. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.